In 2008, a letter from heaven was published to tell the story of a newborn who died shortly after birth. The book attempts to help people who have suffered through this loss. Joining me this morning is Steve Butler, the author of A Letter from Heaven and the award-winning book, We Do Remember You.
How do you do, Christy?
Good morning, Mr. Butler.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing this, this story, because it's a very special story, and I know you dedicated this book, A Letter from Heaven, to your granddaughter.
Yes.
Who died shortly after birth.
Yes.
Can you tell me about it?
On July 6, 2004, our eldest granddaughter, Alexandra, was born and died just a few minutes later, but long enough for her parents and grandparents to hold her and say hello and goodbye.
First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And I can't imagine the pain that your daughter went through. But I know as a result of this tragedy, you wanted to do something special to remember Alexandra, didn't you? Tell me why.
Well, verbally, I had shared with many friends her story and colleagues at work. One friend in particular who owns a bookstore in our town said, "Steve, you need to put this on paper." So I did.
And that's the result of A Letter from Heaven.
And that's A Letter from Heaven.
The illustrations are beautiful. The reading is very simple. Tell me about the book and what the message is as we see some of those illustrations.
The message of the book simply is sharing with our subsequent children the story of their elder sibling who died and lives in heaven, and that they're okay, that they are taken care of in heaven, that they are at peace, that they're growing up well, and that it's okay to remember and even to grieve.
I'm sure you would agree with me that death is a pretty difficult concept for a child to understand. It's
Absolutely.
so abstract, if you will.
Yes.
Do you find that after Alexandra's brothers and sisters read the story, did it help them understand a little bit more about her passing on?
It really did. And what I think, at least certainly my daughter's children, needed to understand two things. One, that Mama and Daddy still love them, Jamie and Megan, as much as they ever did, but that they have this hole in their heart for the older sister who is not with them but lives in heaven, but also to understand that Alexandra is okay up there and doing well.
Let's talk about your second book, and I must congratulate you because it is a Mom's Choice Awards.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
You must be very proud. It's called We Do Remember You.
Yes.
Same kind of theme throughout this book. Tell me about it.
It's a continuation of the first book. Alexandra and her friends are in heaven, and they have a conversation in a garden about all the different ways their loved ones on earth remember them. Rose bushes that are planted, wind chimes that are sung, memory stones, lighting candles, saying prayers around the kitchen table. All these different ceremonies are just simple ways of honoring and remembering the story of our deceased loved ones.
It has really been such an honor talking to you. If I may ask before we wrap up, how do you remember Alexandra? What do you have in her memory?
Two things. One is a rose bush that grows in our garden. It was the rose bush we planted when she died and is now the largest rose bush in our garden at home. And next to it is a wind chime that reminds us of her life and how quickly it passed from us, but how, like the wind, it is always present.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
You've moved me. And if you'd like more information on Steve Butler's book, there are two of them, A Letter from Heaven and We Do Remember You, go to alexandrasrose.net.